You are not a product of your potential. You are a product of your patterns. What you do once is an event. What you do daily becomes your identity. And in the silence between those choices, you are either building a masterpiece or writing your own defeat. You become what you repeat, not in theory. In fact, not in dreams. In deeds, the man who builds an empire and the man who dies in regret. They begin the same way, with a single thought, a single act. Repeated. The world wants to sell you miracles in a bottle. Overnight success. Manifestation on demand. But let me tell you the truth that history whispers behind closed doors. Nothing is more powerful than the rhythm of repetition. Every titan you admire, Edison, Carnegie, Disney, Jobs, they did not stumble into greatness. They compounded into it through ruthless consistency, unwavering belief, and a daily ritual of becoming. Success doesn't scream, it whispers, and most people never get quiet enough to hear it. The man who shows up once is impressive. The man who shows up every day, regardless of how he feels, regardless of who watches, he's inevitable. There is no mystery to transformation, only discipline disguised as destiny. A lion does not wake up and question its nature. It acts according to what it is. But you've been gifted something more dangerous than instinct. You've been given the freedom to choose, and with that, the burden of becoming. Every day, you are writing the blueprint of your future with your habits, and make no mistake, your habits are not harmless. They are holy, because what you repeat, you worship. If you repeat weakness, you sanctify fear. If you repeat procrastination, you declare war on your dreams. But if you repeat strength, if you repeat action, discipline, clarity, you don't just change your life. You change your lineage. This is not about motivation. Motivation fades. This is about programming. It's about looking in the mirror and asking yourself, what code am I running, and what is that code creating? Because everything is a loop. The mind doesn't care what's true. It only cares what's repeated. You can repeat lies about yourself until they feel like gospel. I'm not good enough. I'll never be like them. I always mess things up. Say it long enough, and it carves a trench in your mind. And then you live inside that trench, calling it home, calling it fate. But the same is true in reverse. You can repeat greatness. I am capable. I am chosen. I am building something sacred. Not because the words are magic, but because you are. And what you repeat becomes your reality. Muhammad Ali said, I am the greatest, long before the world believed it, long before he had proof. But he repeated it until it became undeniable. Because belief is not about what is. It's about what you build, and what builds you are your rituals. There is no escaping the fact you are only as strong as your systems. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards performance. And performance is trained, not born. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb in a single spark of genius. He failed over 10,000 times. And every failure was a ritual, an act of becoming, an identity forged through effort, through sweat, through iteration. You become what you repeat. Wake up and scroll. You repeat distraction. Wake up and write. You repeat creation. Skip your goals for comfort. You repeat decay. Push through the pain for purpose. You repeat power. What you do is who you become. And who you become determines what you attract. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. And your standards are built brick by brick in the furnace of repetition. The ones who change the world don't have more talent. They have more alignment. They align their actions with their ambitions, their decisions with their destiny. They don't wait for the perfect time. They make time sacred. 5 minutes of focused effort, repeated, is more powerful than 5 hours of unfocused hope. Don't let the world convince you that you're behind. Don't let your past dictate your pace. The moment you repeat a new behavior, you send a signal to your soul. We are no longer who we were. It begins in the mind, but it's revealed in the muscle. And repetition is the chisel, the fire, the forge. Tell me your daily rituals, and I'll tell you your future. Because excellence is never accidental. It is engineered, piece by piece, habit by habit, repetition by repetition. You want peace, repeat presence. You want wealth, repeat value. You want confidence, repeat courage. You want love, repeat compassion. Every outcome you desire already has a pattern. And the greatest men in history didn't guess their way into greatness. They rehearsed it. They lived it. They repeated the future until it became their present. And you can do the same. You become what you repeat. So the question is not, do you have what it takes? The question is, are you doing what it takes over and over again? You don't need a new plan. You need a new pattern. Because the dream is not denied. It's just waiting for a version of you who shows up daily without excuses. Discipline isn't a punishment. It's a portal. And every time you pass through it, you come out stronger, sharper, more aligned with the man or woman you said you'd become. You don't rise when the moment calls you. You rise because you rehearsed rising 1,000 silent times when no one was watching. You rise because it became second nature, instinct. That is the secret to greatness. Repetition until instinct. Michael Jordan didn't become legendary because he loved basketball. Millions loved the game. He became a legend because while others were sleeping, he repeated his shot until muscle became memory, until his mind and body became one single force of will, and that will became legacy. Do not pray for success. Pray for structure. Because structure is what saves you when motivation leaves you. And it will leave you. There will be days when the fire fades, when doubt shows up dressed as logic, when your mind whispers, "Why bother?" And it is on those days, especially those days, that your repetitions become your rescue. You repeat for the days you don't feel like it. You repeat so deeply that action becomes reflex. You repeat until "I don't feel like it" no longer controls you. You control it. That's when your life begins to bend. When your environment no longer decides your actions. When your emotions no longer sabotage your evolution. When your habits no longer betray your vision. When you've repeated greatness so often, it feels unnatural to do anything else. You become what you repeat. And what you repeat becomes effortless. But here this effortless does not mean easy. It means embedded. Like breathing, like walking, like knowing the sun will rise no matter the storm. You don't just practice actions. You practice identity. When you repeat generosity, you become compassion. When you repeat honesty, you become trust. When you repeat excellence, you become standard. The man who builds himself doesn't start with willpower. He starts with rhythm. He starts with a system that survives emotion. He stops relying on the highs. He becomes dangerous because he's consistent during the lows. And that kind of man, that kind of woman, they are unstoppable. Because they've moved beyond mood, beyond motivation. They've entered the holy ground of mastery, where doing what must be done is no longer negotiable. Think of the sculptor. He doesn't swing the hammer once and expect the statue to appear. He strikes again and again and again, not because the stone is stubborn, but because the vision is sacred. That's what repetition is. It's not punishment, it's worship. Worship of who you could become if only you kept striking. Most people quit at the sound of silence, when the world doesn't clap, when the results don't scream, but winners clap in private. They keep swinging. They keep repeating, until one day, the world is forced to notice what they've become. You've heard the quote, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. But let's go deeper. Excellence is not just habit. Excellence is identity, sculpted through decision, discipline, and devotion. Every day you delay the repetition of who you want to become. You reinforce the version of you that you want to leave behind. You're not just choosing what to do. You're choosing who to be. So when you skip your practice, when you betray your word, when you give in to comfort, you are rehearsing defeat. But when you get up anyway, when you show up again, when you lock in on the process, you are rehearsing greatness. You don't have to get it perfect. You just have to get it embedded. Burn it into your nervous system. Burn it until your body knows what your mind used to fear. Because the world bends to the man who embodies his vision. The one who doesn't just speak goals, but live systems. Who repeats excellence not once in a while, but every day until the man and the mission are indistinguishable. You want to change your life? Don't change everything. Repeat one thing, then do it again, and again, and again. The body you want? It's a repetition. The business you dream of? Repetition. The marriage, the mindset, the mastery. All repetition. And every second you wait, you repeat indecision. You repeat hesitation. You repeat the life that no longer fits. This is not a script. This is your wake-up call. A call to arms. A call to alignment. A call to repetition. Because you already know what to do. You've known for years. What you lack is not knowledge. What you lack is devotion. Devotion to the version of you that lives on the other side of repetition. And that version? He's watching. She's waiting. And they're asking, how long will you repeat your limits when you were built to repeat your legacy? You've tasted glimpses of that future self, the one who wakes up with fire, the one who walks into rooms and doesn't shrink, the one who no longer needs to prove because their presence proves it all. That version of you is not a fantasy. It's not locked behind some genetic lottery. It's hidden in your rituals. You are already carrying the blueprint, but blueprints don't build buildings. Builders do. And repetition is the bricklayer. Day by day, the repetition you avoid is the very foundation you're begging for. You're standing in a construction site, praying for a palace, while the tools are lying at your feet. Pick them up. You don't need more permission. You need more patterns. Look back through history. Abraham Lincoln lost more elections than he won, but he repeated integrity until the world could no longer ignore it. Henry Ford wasn't born into wealth or innovation, but he repeated simplification until an industry bent to his will. Oprah Winfrey was told she didn't have the look for television, but she repeated authenticity until the world called it power. They didn't arrive, they repeated, and what they repeated, they became. So the question is not what they had. The question is, what are you willing to repeat until the world must make room for you? You see, you don't need louder affirmations. You need deeper repetition, not surface-level mantras said once a month, but embodied truth lived every hour. And this is where most people fall. They think repetition is boring, but repetition is alchemy. It's what turns potential into power, motion into momentum, dreams into dominion. Because when the world throws chaos at you, it's your patterns that will catch you, your systems that will save you, your rituals that will remind you who you are. You don't rise in chaos. You rise because your repetition has become a refuge. So hear me, you're not overwhelmed. You're undisciplined. You're not confused. You're uncommitted. The vision is clear. The voice is within. But your life will not move until your rituals do. Do not underestimate the power of one sacred habit repeated with reverence. 5 minutes of stillness repeated. 1 hour of deep work repeated. A daily workout, a written goal, a midnight prayer repeated. You want the world to believe in you? Then repeat being someone worth believing in. Show up like a pro. Execute like it's a promise, not a preference. This is not about motivation. This is about alignment. Because every time you act in alignment with your future, you steal a piece of it and bring it into the present. And over time, the repetition of that theft becomes transformation. You want freedom? Then you must submit yourself to the discipline of the few. The world is full of many, but it bends to the few who rise without applause, the few who act without drama, the few who repeat until repetition becomes ritual and ritual becomes reputation. You will never be remembered for what you meant to do. You will be remembered for what you repeatedly did. So ask yourself, what am I rehearsing? What identity am I reinforcing? What future am I rewriting every time I wake up and do what must be done? Because every small choice is a vote. Every repeated action is a sculptor's hand, and your life is the marble. You don't need to search for greatness. You need to repeat it over and over, in silence, in sacrifice, in strength. Until one day, the world says, they were always destined for this. And you will know the truth. It wasn't destiny. It was repetition. And so now we arrive at the edge. The moment between who you've been and who you were meant to become. Not the moment when the crowd cheers. Not the moment when the spotlight finds you. But the moment no one sees. The quiet choice, the whispered decision, the next repetition. Because this is the truth. Every transformation starts in the shadows, before the success, before the proof, before the validation. It starts in the dark, when you choose to rise again, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Because your future is watching, because your greatness is listening. Because your legacy is being written by your next act, not your next wish. And every act you repeat becomes a letter, a sentence, a scripture of your becoming. So if you want to live a new life, don't chase it. Repeat it. Repeat the man you need to be. Repeat the standard you swore to uphold. Repeat the courage it takes to stay when quitting would feel easier. Repeat the boldness to stand alone. Repeat the discipline to do it small. again and again and again, until it's no longer small, until it becomes inevitable. Don't look for shortcuts. Look for standards. Don't search for secrets. Search for structure. And then repeat that structure until even your silence commands respect, because there's no such thing as luck. Only alignment multiplied by repetition. There's no such thing as fate. Only choice, stacked upon choice, until the weight of your actions bends reality. And there's no such thing as failure. Only the moment you stop repeating the very habits that once made you dangerous. Do not let this world convince you that you're too late. You're right on time if you begin again. You're right on time if you return to your repetitions. You're right on time if you rewrite the rhythm that built your cage. You've built patterns that kept you small. Now build patterns that make you sovereign. When the historians write about you, they will not ask, how did they feel? They will ask, what did they do every day? Because legacy isn't written in epiphanies, it's etched in effort. So if you want to be great, don't just speak it. Repeat it. If you want to be free, don't just wish for it. Repeat it. If you want to rise, don't just visualize. Repeat. Until the repetition becomes rhythm. Until the rhythm becomes reality. Until reality bows to the version of you who would not break the chain. You become what you repeat, so repeat greatness. Repeat discipline, repeat vision, repeat resilience. And when the world finally sees you, when they call it overnight success, when they write their headlines, when they echo your name, let them talk, because you'll know the truth. It wasn't overnight. It was every night, every sunrise you didn't skip, every routine you didn't break, every dream you didn't betray, every time you chose the man you were becoming over the comfort of the man you were. That's what built you. That's what saved you. That's what forged you. And that's why the world will never forget you, because you became what you repeated.